The global energy transition relies on a specific set of raw materials hidden beneath the soil of the African continent. Yet the wealth generated by these elements is overwhelmingly captured thousands of miles from where they are extracted. This map shows the continent's points of raw mineral extraction and the heavy outward flow of those resources. The raw ores are shipped out continuously, yet less than 5% of these critical minerals are actually refined or processed on African soil. The International Energy Agency projects that the global market for critical minerals will reach $770 billion annually by 2040. Because the refining and manufacturing happen elsewhere, the vast majority of that capital will bypass the producing nations entirely. Exporting raw dirt captures only a fraction of a mineral's true economic value. The real margins accumulate in the downstream markets: chemical refining, battery manufacturing, and technology assembly. Maintaining this historic pattern of operating as an extractive enclave means African states are actively relinquishing tens of billions of dollars in lost sovereign wealth every single year. The Goulamina lithium mine in southern Mali offers a direct test of whether a nation can force local value capture. Commissioned in late 2024, it is designed to produce over 500,000 tons of spodumene concentrate, a sought-after lithium ore, in its first phase alone. Chinese industry leader Ganfeng Lithium controls 65% of the project. The Malian state holds 30%, anticipating roughly $160 million in direct annual revenue. The true economic anchor is buried in Mali's 2023 mining code. The law mandates that at least 51% of all subcontracting must be awarded to local Malian companies, a provision valued at an estimated 250 billion CFA francs per year. That policy confronts a difficult geographic reality. Mali is a landlocked state with a heavy reliance on agriculture, navigating a persistent period of political fragility and a severe infrastructure deficit. Without domestic deepwater ports, operators must export the heavy ore through transport corridors in neighboring Senegal or Côte d'Ivoire. The logistics eat into the margins and expose the supply chain to regional political friction. A single, highly lucrative commodity cannot integrate a regional economy on its own. If lithium revenues are not explicitly channeled into building independent transport corridors and local skills development, the wealth remains trapped inside the fences of the extraction site. A few hundred miles to the south, Guinea is testing value capture on an entirely different scale. The Simandou mountain range holds an estimated 3.3 billion tons of iron ore at an exceptionally high 65% iron content. Unlocking it requires an integrated capital investment of $20 to $23 billion. The southern blocks are operated by Rio Tinto, while the winning consortium controls the north. Moving billions of tons of heavy ore to the coast demands a shared 650-kilometer heavy rail network and a deepwater port, consolidated under a special purpose vehicle co-owned by the consortia and the Guinean state. The macroeconomic projections are immense. The International Monetary Fund estimates that Simandou could expand Guinea's entire gross domestic product by 26% by the year 2030. But Guinea has seen this dynamic before. The nation is currently the world's leading exporter of bauxite, the primary ore used to make aluminum, yet it remains one of the lowest-income countries on Earth. Decades of high-volume bauxite extraction did not yield broad-based prosperity. The physical export numbers were high, but without strict institutional discipline, the capital quickly flowed back out of the country. To prevent a repeat with iron ore, Guinea has established a sovereign wealth fund capitalized at roughly $1 billion, alongside a 2040 roadmap that mandates the development of downstream domestic steel production. Simandou's success depends entirely on the execution of transparent revenue management and credible fiscal rules. The geology is irrelevant if the governance cannot translate raw extraction into long-term industrial capacity. Zooming out, the pattern visible in Mali and Guinea repeats across the continent. The Democratic Republic of Congo produces over 70% of the world's cobalt. South Africa holds roughly 80% of known platinum group metal reserves. Realizing the immense value of these assets, governments are pushing back through legislation. Zimbabwe recently instituted a ban on the export of raw lithium to force domestic refining, while Burkina Faso adopted strict local content mandates to force joint ventures. At the highest level, the African Union is advancing a continental critical minerals strategy. The goal is to harmonize disparate national rules, streamline cross-border logistics, and force regional beneficiation, the process of improving the economic value of an ore by refining it locally before export. Yet ambitious legislation routinely outpaces physical infrastructure. Mandated refining targets are consistently stalled by chronic power grid shortages, a lack of specialized engineering skills, and fractured transport networks. Enforcing export bans without first building reliable electricity grids and heavy rail capacity creates massive market bottlenecks rather than sovereign value chains. The decisions being made around these mining pits carry urgent demographic weight. By the year 2050, Africa's youth population is projected to reach 830 million people, requiring millions of high-skill downstream industrial jobs. The global economic race is no longer about exploring and discovering deposits. We know exactly where the minerals are. The competition is now entirely about who commands the margin between a pile of raw ore and a finished, high-value manufactured product. This is a story of structural choice. The geological endowment beneath the continent is a settled fact. It is the institutional and infrastructural architecture above ground that must now be built.